For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them. 2 or 3, huh? What about 60,000? I don't know where to begin. Tens of thousands of Catholics gathered in Indianapolis to worship God and celebrate his gift of the Eucharist. There are no words to describe what this was like. But I am going to do my best to try. Also, I must warn you that the camera phone video I'm about to share with you, it will not do the scene justice. Not even close. It started, as many places and events do, with crowds, with lines. After we had stood in line for an hour outside in both the blazing sun and managing to get rained on at one point, I joked with my husband that even though it felt like we were at the beginning of the line because we were approaching the inside of the building, it was probably going to be like being in an amusement park, when you've been standing out in the sun and you can see the entrance to the ride building, and then you get inside just to find out that the queue line is just, you've got a long way to go. I had no idea how right I was. We were in line for about 2 hours total. It seems as though the volunteers doing the check-in had been a bit overwhelmed by the numbers. I saw this, though, as a good problem to have. It meant a lot of people had shown up. Then we gathered at the stadium and watched the 4 groups that had processed through the country with the Eucharist coalesce around the altar that would later hold the monstrance with the Eucharist. The energy was palpable. Excitement, joy, and love emanated through the stadium. Then it was declared,
He is here.
And tens of thousands of people fell to their knees to adore Jesus. Incredible is an incredibly weak word to use here, but it's going to have to suffice. It occurred to me, while feeling exhilarated and joyful, that this must be just a fraction of what it might be like to be in heaven. Day 2 and 3 were chock full of liturgies, breakouts, lines, events, live music, lines, exhibits, shopping. Did I mention lines? And more. I had signed up for enough to keep my schedule pretty packed, so I ran out of time to see and do everything I wanted to see and do. Both days ended by gathering at the stadium, which included amazing concert-level music, gifted speakers, and, of course, adoration. Day 4 started out similar to that of day 2 and 3, but about halfway through, we poured out into the streets of Indianapolis. I don't know how to explain what it is like to see that many people walking the streets of a downtown area, so I'm just going to have to borrow this video from EWTN of the time lapse they captured. Day 5 was short. We celebrated Mass with Cardinal Tagle while being led in prayerful song by the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra. 60,000 Catholics said the creed in unison. 60,000 Catholics sung hymns together. 60,000 Catholics lined up for the Eucharist. 60,000 Catholics offered sacrifice in the Mass. I literally have no words. I'm giving you the short version as I could probably record one video for each day that I was there. I want you to imagine for a moment all your favorite people, all your favorite celebrities being in one spot. Can you imagine that? That was what it was like for me. My favorite YouTubers, speakers, authors, true influencers, including Jesus, they were all there. At least 3 of my 4 Jesus geeks that I mentioned in that video were there. I was surrounded by people who love the Lord. You guys, I hate crowds. I don't go to concerts. I don't go to football games. I don't go to parades. My sister's theory is that it's because I don't like fun. I just don't think crowds are a bunch of fun people. I find that most people, when they get into large groups, just become rude and obnoxious. They're far too often drunk and completely oblivious to the people around them. Or they flat out just don't care, which unfortunately is probably more often the case. This was not the case, however, at the Congress. People were caring, polite, and patient. I could not help but to imagine a world in which this was the norm, where God was in the foreground and on people's minds wherever they went, where priests and religious were everywhere you looked, where the community was helpful and caring, where groups of teenagers made you smile with their enthusiasm and zeal. Y'all, it would be an amazing world, a bit of heaven on earth. I'm back at home now. But the Congress wasn't the end of the journey. It was the beginning. We were called to start a new Pentecost, to go out and live our lives proclaiming the greatness of God, not just in our words, but in our actions. Now, I'm going to extend that to you, whether you were at the Congress or not. We'll know if the Congress was a success if the message of the Eucharist becomes more widely known. This is a job for everyone who believes that the presence of Jesus is found in the Eucharist. This is a job for every Catholic. Jesus is here.